So welcome to our soil pit session here at Adam Gurr's farm. My name is Megan Westphal. I'm a soil survey specialist with Manitoba Ag, and my job is to go out and classify the soils here in Agri, Manitoba. So when we're classifying soils, one of the first things we want to look at is the landscape and the topography and where we are within that landscape. So at this site, we have some undulating topography that's in the very gentle sloping category, so 2 to 5% slope. Our knolls, so the top of the slope there's two, but the one over here is the dominant one, and the slope is coming this way. And then the depression is over there. A little hard to see with the knoll this high, but you can kind of make out the differences. So then if you take that into consideration and where we are located on the lower slope of that landscape. So that kind of will get us thinking about what kind of soils are we going to see, the drainage that we're going to see as well. Another thing to consider is the vegetation as well. So here we're in a plowed field. But most likely before this was plowed, it was under grassland. So that'll also give us an idea of the color of our top horizon as well as the depth of the horizon as well. So yeah, and then after you think about that for a bit, you can also consult our recon reports that we have for all of Agri Manitoba, and about 35% of Manitoba is done at a detailed level, so you can consult those reports as well before you come out to the field, just to give you an idea of what soils we're going to find. So then when we get to the field and we dig our pit and we have our face exposed, one of the first things you'll notice is the color change, and that'll help us designate our horizons. Other things you'll notice as you're digging is the parent material. And it can also be a visual thing as well. So here we have glacial till parent material. We determine that by these gravels that we see within the profile. And then when we dig and auger down, we hear a crunchy sound against the metal, and that's the till pit bits grinding against the metal. So that also tells us that we have glacial till parent material here. So yeah, now back to the face. So I have it outlined here for you, and I'll just go through what I have labeled here. So we start at the top. So our top horizon is designated as the A horizon, and then so that would be considered our master horizon. And then we also, when we classify soils, we have suffixes that describes what we see within that horizon as well. So being in a plowed field, we use the P suffix with our A horizon, because even though this is a no-till field, there's still human influence on that A horizon, so we still designate it as the P horizon, as the AP horizon. So then moving down the profile, we see a color change. So we have a nice brown coloring forming here, and with that, along with that, we also have a little bit of structure formation, but not too much. And it was a little bit tackier, so slightly more clay content than the A horizon. So that's indicative of a B horizon. So you have a B horizon if there's one of the following. You have a color change, a increase in clay content, a presence of carbonates, or development of structure. So here we have our B horizon. And then to describe all of those things I just listed, we use the M suffix, the modified suffix. So that M suffix kind of covers all of those things that we see or don't see. But as long as you see one, you can give it the M horizon. And then we get to our G horizon. So G stands for glean, which is a term we use to describe, to help describe the drainage within the field. So when you're in a poorly drained or imperfectly drained soil and water is held within the soil for long periods of time, you get a dulling of colors. Dulling of colors and in a kind of more grayish colors form compared to in a more well-drained soil. They'll be brighter and more distinct. So here we can kind of see it's not quite a nice bright brown. And then when I use my Munsell soil color charts, I determined that we had a dark grayish brown color with a chroma of 2. And with the G or glean designation, the chromas can't be higher than 1. But then why am I using the chroma or the G designation with a chroma of 2? Well, that kind of segues into the J suffix. So we use the J suffix when a horizon kind of shows indications of another suffix, but doesn't quite meet that full definition. So it goes right after the G because we see some evidence of glean, but it doesn't quite fully meet the requirement for that. Another indication of glean is what we call mottling, which is orange or reddish orange color formations developing in the soil from the iron. So when the iron in the soil is saturated for a period of time, and then when the water drains and is then exposed to air, that iron oxidizes and forms a rust color. So we don't see too much of that in this area of our profile, but if you go along in other areas, you can kind of see a little bit of coloration forming right on the edge of the C horizon here. So yeah, so then we give the GJ for our B horizon. So then moving down, we have a gradual color change into our C horizon here, which is the untransformed parent material, so not too affected by the soil forming processes occurring in the upper horizons here. We do see some oxidation of that iron though, so that'll tell us that we have some indications of glean occurring. They're not very prominent, so we'll most likely have to have the J designation with that G as well. And then when I also did the coloring on the color chart, it had a chroma higher than 1, around the 2. So then that also denotes the GJ designation as well. And then one of the funnest parts of soil surveying is dropping the acid. So when we classify our soils, we want to determine the amount of carbonates or if the presence of carbonates within the soil, because that's also an indication of drainage and water movement. So carbonates are water soluble, they move with the water. So in a well-drained soils, you'll have carbonates deep in the profile or not there. When you get into imperfectly drained soils, they'll start to creep up the profile, and poorly drained soils can have carbonates right up to the surface. There can be some well-drained soils with carbonates at the surface due to the high carbonate amount in the parent material. But here when I drop the acid on these 2 horizons, there's not much happening. So when you drop the acid on the soil, and if there's carbonates present, you should see some fizzing or hear some fizzing. So then when we get to our C horizon, my hand's not in the way, you can see some fizzing where the acid drops. So then when I'm doing my surveying, I note how much it fizzes, and then I'll put it in a category of percent of carbonates. And they're fairly broad, so like 1 to 5 or 5 to 10, things like that. But for our purposes, we just want to know if they're present or not. So then we work our way down. We have a second sea horizon because we do see a bit of a color change and increased mottling, and the models are also darker in color. Did I describe the word modeling already? Okay, good. Thanks. So that denotes imperfect drainage still, so we give it the G.